So we're going to talk about our um, reactions to the last three panels of CitizenCon for the ones for day 2. And like we did on the previous episode, um, we're going to take turns reading the descriptions, and then the person who doesn't read will give their thoughts first. And so let's see. Um, we had planned our sequence was for you to read about crafting your home, but I want to hear about your thoughts because crafting is way more your speed, your shtick, crafting and base building. So I'm going to read the description for the crafting your home panel, um, and then you can tell us your thoughts. And I'm going to let it start playing right now, but the sound is off.
Yeah.
So, crafting your home. Explore the fundamentals of crafting and base building, including how they combine to enable new opportunities for players and ultimately create the future of life amongst the stars. All right. Pardon me.
Oh.
Oh gosh, big sneeze.
It was such a good panel. Like, not only did they basically kick it off, your video went away. No.
Yep. I bumped my mouse and it put me onto the wrong screen. I
I
have my
I don't
headphones
know
on.
how
I'm going to
far
be
in.
listening to what you said.
Okay.
Here, we can skip him to where.
Oh, that's right. Base building was halfway through. Yeah, we're good. It's good.
I'm going to go grab some water, but I'm listening and I'll be right back.
All right. So I'll start off with crafting because that's what's gonna be on screen for a while. I love the system. It's pretty good. Obviously, like they had to do something, so somebody's gonna be upset. It obviously isn't like the most interesting they could have done. It's input, recipe, resources, get thing out. It's crafting. We all know this is crafting. Um, I love crafting. I love crafting in most games. I love Minecraft. I love Space Engineers. Um, I just love the entire genre of crafting stuff. Um, how we're doing blueprints is really interesting. That once you find one, I don't know if there's like an accept button. I really hope there is, so that way you can see, oh, this is a P4AR tier 2 blueprint. I already have this, so instead of accepting this onto my character, I'm gonna hand it to my buddy. Hopefully, there's that system. But once you do accept a blueprint or find a blueprint, it will be locked to your character. It will no longer be a physical item. You'll have a virtual and non-corporeal inventory of all of your blueprints that you keep everywhere. Holy crap, what great timing. Sergeant Grimm has raided with 164 people. What excellent timing. Tree is away, I assume getting yogurt
Holy
or ice
crap.
cream. Oh,
No,
there he
I,
is.
I got more water. Holy crap. Grim,
Oh,
thanks so much
water.
for the raid. Really appreciate the support. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. Good to see everybody. We are, if this is your first time joining us on the show, we are the Pathfinders, and we're charting the way through all the nebulous information surrounding Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and
Part
their
of the
development.
crew. Part of the ship. Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Oh, my headphones.
Part
are
of the
being
crew.
funky.
Part of the ship. Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
I hope you had a good stream, Grim. Thanks for really appreciate the raid. Yeah, get some sleep. It's already late. But yeah, we just went over the October 30th Roadmap Roundup, and then we're talking about our thoughts for day 2 of CitizenCon. We're finally catching up and going over all this stuff. So Naz is talking about his thoughts regarding crafting and base building. But just to remind everybody, since there's probably a lot of new people that just hopped in, um, I keep no monetization for myself. Everything gets donated to charity. So if you have to suffer through an ad while you're hanging out with us, just know that ad revenue gets donated to stackup.org. If you hate ads so much or you like the content enough that you wanted to drop a sub, that money gets donated to stackup.org as well. So really appreciate the support, especially because Veterans Day is coming up in less than a week. So cheers to everybody. Ain't nobody got time for that. We got a birthday in a couple days. All right. Yes, the most important holiday of the year. I will not be taking argument on this. Yeah, yet. Yeah, Marine Corps birthday in 4 days. I will be streaming that evening probably. hopefully how coherent I'll be, I don't know. I can't get too wild because I have to work the next day, and I'll be coming off of a 24-hour shift. But yeah, let's continue. Thanks again so much for the raid, and thanks so much for the support, and thanks for coming out and hanging out with us, everybody. Good to see you.
And welcome in. All right. Where was I? Crafting, really cool. Yes. Blueprints will be locked to your character.
Oh,
I really do like that.
I was
There is
listening,
the one other
so
option.
I
Yeah,
wanted
go
to
ahead.
hear what you thought, and because I didn't hear them mention it in particular. Do you think that you'll be able to commit it to your person as soon as you pick it up?
I hope there is a stopgap.
What do you mean?
Like
Do
the
tell.
the image they showed was somebody like looking at one of the little tablet things we have in the game now.
Mm-hmm.
As like a blueprint is on that device. And I hope there is accept blueprint or like download blueprint or something. That way you can say, hey, this device has a P4AR tier 2 blueprint in it. I have a tier 2 already or a tier 3. So you can hand that to somebody else saying, here, you download that because you don't have it yet. Instead of
Yeah.
just like, oh, I just got another duplicate blueprint. Because they're not going to stack. You don't need to stack them. They are
Mm-hmm.
not what I thought they were going to be with them being like you have to buy them and or you can there is some that you will be able to buy, but they won't be use limited. They will be infinitely craftable, infinitely buildable.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever however they're going to balance that is a whole other job for CIG to do. I'm glad I don't have to be that system designer to have to balance crafting.
No joke.
Um
I think the only thing that I was hoping for was that you would have to turn it in order to commit it to your memory, your character account, whatever. So
yeah.
that way there's a little bit of risk involved if you find a high tier one out somewhere.
Mhm.
Okay, you found it out in Pyro. You need to make it back to a terminal to download it. But if you buy one or you trade for it or something like that, um,
Yeah, that's
you
also
do it
something
on
that
a
I want
yeah,
to
like
know is like, can you collect them and then sell them?
yeah, because I feel like if you loot it and you don't need it, then yeah, sell it absolutely.
Yeah.
But I feel like there should be oh man, I found this super high tier blueprint. I need to get it back to here, and I need to do it safely and not get pirated or downed and
Kind of like
looted or
the
something like that.
original land claim system was supposed to be, where you had to go
Yeah.
out, put down the something tack, geotack, and then it would give you a chip to then take back to the TDD to actually submit your claim.
Hmm. Yeah, and once you submit it, then you plug it into that machine, and whether it's one at your base or at a station or in have a little mini one in your hab, you have them basically as ubiquitous as the inventory kiosks.
Hmm.
But if you're out in the wilds, and you could even have it be a thing that you put in your ship so that way you can make sure that you download it as soon as you get on your ship or something. It gives some player choice, but also a little bit of risk. Where okay, if you keep it in your in your backpack, and you don't download it, then well, okay, you run
Let's
the risk
emphasize the
of
jam. That is not what they're doing for blueprints. Blueprints are infinite. They are once you find them, once you commit them to your character, they are in a separate, non-physical inventory locked to your account.
once you
It is
commit it to your
a
character.
yes.
Yeah,
It is
when if you pick it
it
up,
is
yeah.
different to everything else they've done so far. I don't
Mhm.
know why they're doing this. This is just what they're doing. This is how they're doing it.
But that is
It is
after
very
you commit
different.
it to your character. When you find it in the universe, it seems like it will be a tangible thing that you can
Yes.
like if you
Yeah,
don't
they
if you
will
don't
be
press
locked to
the
tangible things before you accept them onto your character.
yeah, if you don't take your Kindle reader and jam it onto your forehead immediately, you could, lose it essentially. Well,
Yeah.
that's the way I read it, heard it. So, but I would like it to not just be something that your character can do, that you have to interact with something to do it. So that way, if you're out in the environment, you run the risk of losing it. Um, I'm just
As
imagining
far
like
as they were talking
you're in
about
a
it, it was much like the
yeah.
shot in the Squadron demo where he went
Hmm.
over the terminal and had to download the thing.
Yeah.
Like you saw it and you had to hit the download button.
Yeah. I would I'm just imagining a scenario where you're in a pickup group and you do like a distribution center mission and you just win the lottery in terms of like finding a blueprint in a box and you
Yep.
say it out loud and a voice comes and then everybody turns and looks at you and they're like you know what everybody's thinking because they're like if I shoot him really quick I could get that blueprint before I get committed to memory. You know,
Yep.
curse you and your inevitable betrayal. But like,
Yeah.
but to me,
Also,
that kind of
if
angst
anyone
would make
had
make it
any,
interesting.
yeah, and if anyone had any gripes about any of the previs shoehorned filler text of any of these stupid slides, just gonna leave it there. All of the numbers that were shown on screen for crafting and stuff has no bearing on how it's actually gonna play out. None of this stuff has been play tested. Once it gets to the playtesting phase, then the values change and they figure out what's going to use what materials and how much of what materials and what quality, how much is quality going to affect what percentage of what. None of the numbers you see on screen will are final numbers.
Yep.
I don't know if they said that enough. A lot of people are like, oh my god, the gun's expensive. They just had to put in something.
I do think
They
the
didn't want.
previs is pretty dang good though. Like
I
what they've
love
got
the
so far.
style and I love like the look of the UI. Very
Yeah,
cool.
it's very readable, very understandable. Like
Yes.
it's simple but elegant.
Only to
All
be
right.
outdone by the building stuff.
Sorry, tangent, but I wanted to hear your thoughts because that was the first thing that came to mind, and you had talked about it while I was
It
getting
was a
water.
big question from last year too. So
Yeah. Please continue, sir.
let's see. There's just so much in this one. I'll probably be bouncing around a lot. So once you get a blueprint, you then can do two things with it. So it's in your head basically, not lootable now after you've accepted it. So you can then go to a crafting device or a research device. If you go to a crafting device, you can craft the component assuming you have the resources. You can go to a research terminal and upgrade that blueprint or research it to get it to a higher tier. And that will also take resources, much more resources than just crafting the item, because it is a completely separate but also intensive process. I think they said items go to 3, ships go to 5. Yeah.
I'm glad you like that, Captain No Pants, because that's what came to mind. Like someone just takes the, I can make a an arc light pistol now.
Oh man, that'd be so good. Actually, I would love them to use the stupid effect they use for the current vehicle munching. That like
Yeah, it just
data like
disintegrates and then just zaps into
yeah.
your forehead.
Yep. Love it. Let's see. Everything will not everything, but they want to have most of the stuff in the game have a blueprint so you can craft it. Furniture, components, items, sub items, ships. So they said well over 1,000 blueprints. What they're showing on screen now with the gun thing is what different qualities will do. So this is different qualities for P4AR, different qualities for a jump drive, and then after that, I think it's different qualities for a salvage laser. So they're also introducing qualities to resources, not only quantity but also quality. Right now, we only have quantity, is how much quantanium or laranite can we get back to refine and sell. In the future, we'll be dealing with quality of resource, and Genesis will actually inform that. So different materials will spawn in different places at different qualities at different quantities, and it will be up to players to deduce what these systems are, so that you can more easily find what you're looking for. Also, scanning and the updates to that will help greatly improve players' perception of the environment and where to find good resources. Finding resources will
incentivizes the
definitely be
exploration part of it for
Yeah.
sure.
finding resources will definitely be an entire profession in this game. Absolutely, for sure. For you to own, not only for your own use, but also to find it and then sell off to people who craft, who exploit resources, or who build.
Yeah, Robert
Um,
Vose. I think it would be interesting if that was a way to be able to, um, yeah, learn an upgraded blueprint. Like, you loot 5 tier 3 of this gun, and you disassemble 5 of them in order to learn the blueprint for that tier. Or each time you disassemble that tier, you get uh, a chance to get the blueprint upgrade. If you
mhm.
have the original blueprint or something, I'm sure they could incorporate stuff like that. But there's so many different things that they just glossed over the ability for upgrading. They didn't include a list of ways that you could upgrade. There's going to be
Yeah,
so
this is
many.
all like pretty early development and
Hmm.
design work. None of this is play tested in engine really at all. Like, there's not a lot actually like to tweak yet to play around with or to show. Um, our kitchens and spaceships are not going to be crafting terminals, unfortunately. Food, there is an image of there is a chemical crafter, a item crafter, and a food crafter. Um, our kitchens are not crafting stations,
I
as
do
much
like that
as a
there's
lot of people
different
wanted.
machines for different things versus
Yes.
you have an
Yeah.
extra small, a small, medium, large crafting machine, and you can craft anything in one machine. No, you have to have there's different
Yeah.
types of
Not
machines for
only are
different
there
types of
different
things.
types, but there are also different sizes.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
that's smart.
many different easy bakes.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Other stuff. Covered different quality things. I'm gonna move on to base building, but I'm not sure if I covered everything for crafting. So base building. Base building. Holy crap, base building. Not only one of my like favorite features in any game is building a base and building a home. But also they showed it functional in engine. Not final, but functional. They built a base in the game, which is the one thing me and Tree really disagreed on going into CitizenCon, about it being either just shown off in slides or in engine being played. So one Oracle point for me. Um, and I thought that was great. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of awesome screenshots, um, and stuff they just didn't have stuff to show like for farming. Not in any sort of state done. Basic buildings and how you're going to build tints, styles, foundations, paints on the foundations to designate space for parking, space for roads. Um, it was interesting, but it was very Starfield like. Starfield wasn't the first to do it either. It's a basic uh, building based building system. Um, we'll also have to virtually, not physically, connect inputs and outputs to different buildings. So power generation stuff, not piping, not doing piping. There is so far no piping. So when you have an extractor, you will have to. It will have a freight elevator for it. The freight will come up out of the ground, and you have to physically move that to either an elevator or a refinery or whatnot. You're not just going to have a pipeline from that to the other thing. It will have to be player moved. That was one of the big things they talked about from last year. You're not just going to be able to have a manufacturing facility run autonomously. You will have to
This
have
is
players
not going to
moving
be
resources.
Factorio in
Yeah, this
Star
is not
Citizen.
Star Factorio, even though
Yeah.
Factorio is now space. Um, building, yes. Yep. Maybe snap to grid will work in SC, unlike so placing on terrain is not grid based. placing on foundations is grid based. So like Satisfactory in that form. And let's see. They show so the smallest base building thing. I'm just staring at nothing in case anyone's wondering. I'm not actually looking at anything. The smallest base building vehicle is a little push coffin, hover coffin thing that can let you build small things, which includes the little tiny house structure and a small generator, which will cost fuel and fuses. And fuses will just run out. Basically, they'll just break, and you'll have to replace them. That is one of the main costs of upkeep for a building. There's also they also announced the. Well, we'll go over ships, I guess, later. We did get a little bit of update on how shipbuilding's gonna work. We have to build fabrication hangars. We can also build non-fabrication hangars. There will also be structures you can build to build buildings. And how building itself works is you have, again, quantity and size of drone for it. So one small drone can build one small structure at one small drone speed. One medium drone can build a medium building at medium speed, or a small building at medium speed, and so on and so forth. You can also parallelize base building with multiple drones, as you cannot have two drones work on one building, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't remember them saying anything like that, so it'd be
I
interesting
will
to see
have
if
to
they added that
re-listen
later.
to. They did specifically say it. I don't remember. As far as I know, it was that you cannot. There is no helping cooperation in drones.
Yeah, you
So
can't put
if you have two
all four of
drones,
your large drones onto one large structure to finish that large structure faster. Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
which
So you can build four buildings
is
at
kind of
once, but you
interesting
can't
because
build
that's a
one
very
building
much a
four times as fast.
yeah, that's very much a base building trope, is having that. But it maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't think they mentioned any of those.
Yeah. I'm so excited for crafting and base building. I am in the process of upgrading my entire organization to a manufacturing org. So excited. Let's see. Is there anything specific I missed? Probably, but I think I've covered the basics. I was super excited about this. I was
I bet.
hooked from the word go.
Let's see. So I've got some notes, of course.
That's good, because I didn't.
You're, yeah, I was very impressed at how far along it was in terms of, oh, they're putting down structures and you can interact with them and walk around on them and stuff. And
Yeah,
they're
this
like,
is
they're
a
calling
feature
it,
we're getting in 2025.
oh yeah, yeah, and they're calling it gray box. I'm like, oh God, your gray box is better than most games. Shut up.
Can you are you able to advance the video to show the concept UIs that they have for base building?
Sure. Do you remember about where that was?
It's gonna be the second half.
Like
Maybe a
this?
quarter. No, the blue one.
Oh, I know what you were talking about when this.
Yeah, and the concept images. I have to wait for it to update because I don't have. Yeah, there you go. Yep, those ones. So just play it from there. I love this UI. It's so cool looking. Ah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is good because it shows you, hey, there's a resource here, and this is buildable. This is buildable. Over here is buildable. This is not. This terrain will not flatten, but this will. You can build on this. This will flatten, or the legs will adjust. Is it playing? Yeah. Okay.
Did they say there will be small, medium, large building types, and they'll be capped by drone, essentially? So any size drone can build its size and down, but it cannot build up. So a small cannot build a medium cannot build large, but they can all build their any size below them.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
don't
their
know
size
how
and
many
below,
sizes
yeah.
they said.
Small,
I would
medium,
imagine
large, extra
there's-
large.
Okay, so there are four sets.
Yep.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, small drones. 2 small drones pop out of your base building coffin.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Hey,
of the
thanks so much
crew,
for the
part of the
follow,
ship.
Icon.
Part of the crew, part of the
Classic.
ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Yeah,
It,
there's
like the UI feels
Part of the
very. Oh wow.
Part of the ship.
Welcome.
thanks
Part
so
of
much
the
for the
crew, part
follow.
of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
This would be its
I
own
really-
game for any other game. But yeah, I do
Yeah.
like, even if this is previs, I don't care. It looks cool. I like it.
Yeah, it looks like a city builder or a theme park builder game. Like that's what the UI gives me the vibes of, and that's basically where I spent most of my like childhood gaming.
Yeah.
Not childhood games, like whatever the like after childhood, pre-adult, teenagers in there, but like the entire time, like there was what was it? Roller Coaster Tycoon, SimCity, 3, 4, 5, Cities XL, Legoland, Sim Theme Park, Thrillville, all those things.
Hey, Second
Love
Recon,
all
thanks
of
so
them.
much for the support. Dropped you some ducats in the Ura jar. Good luck with your goal, gents. Time to hit the rack. '07. Yeah, come by and stop by and hang out again sometime. Would love to see you. Really appreciate the support. Yeah, get some
On a
rest.
trolley, 2 med drones on the FM. So they haven't said what, if any, mixing matching you can do with drones. We do know that there are other types of drones, not just base building drones, from a plethora of other things. They really stuck to base building drones for the talk of base building. There also are general drones that can be equipped, much like a mining head can be changed out for another mining head. But like the utility slots on drones, there are some drones, allegedly this is pretty old data, that can be repair or refuel, such as the drones on the Vulcans. You
Yeah.
can't
What
have.
they've said is that you can't. Your Nautilus won't be able to support the drones from the Vulcan because they won't. The Nautilus doesn't have the facilities to give them the, essentially restock. Like they showed the. That's one thing that I made a note about is they had that on the build, on the Silencer build. They've got that articulating drone boom arm where the drone comes back and it lands on the thing and it refills with the the building goo, and that's how they resupply them. Whereas the other drone
medium,
bays,
not
like,
med. I'm sorry.
oh, okay,
2
yeah,
small drones on the trawler, two medium drones on the FM, 4 large drones on the build, 4 extra large drones on the Pioneer. Right.
Yep.
Yes, correct. And 4 extra large on the Spire that you can build as well.
mm-hmm.
So you can accelerate your base building with the Pioneer by building a Spire, and then you have 8 large drone or extra large drones.
Yeah.
Now,
Let's see.
the question is, do you have enough resources? The Spire
Yeah.
was built by the build. Oh, so it's a large building. So you can not only accelerate, but also up the tier of building. That's very cool. That's also, yeah. So you don't have to, that would make sense. You don't have to have a Pioneer to build extra large buildings. You just have to build the building to build them. Nice.
Let's see. So my notes, I said, I like how crafting seems to balance the gathering of various materials via different methods, so it isn't so dependent on volume and ships. So like, everybody wants to just mine and mine a whole lot, and so few people hand mine or even rock mine. And I feel like this is going to go a long way to getting people to do more resource gathering that isn't just the highest volume to get you the most UEC. You're going to have more incentive to do things by hand and explore on foot, and on ground vehicle, versus mining out in space to get as many SCU of titanium as possible.
I also thought a really interesting way to use something like a BMM, not for like trading per se, but as a mobile fabrication, like putting the little fabrication units in the cargo hold. So you can go around and like basically offer like the 3D printers like for people who are out in like pyro and things like, hey, it's probably not safe to have infrastructure here because it could just be taken away. But you're a miner. I have some like crafters inside. You can rent you some space,
Mm-hmm.
like a
Yeah.
crafting cafe.
Crafting cafe. Let's see. I said refining has just been digital thus far. You don't actually see the materials. But they talked about how you could upgrade. You could refine things into higher quality things. Well, what does that
Mm-hmm.
do for assets you can hold in your hands? Things that you've harvested and you can actually see. It isn't a thing that pops out into a box into your cargo hold. I wonder, are we going to have a visible difference in, okay, this was a tier 1 Rantadung and now I've refined it to tier 3 I don't know, higher quality
I
Rantadung.
would imagine it wouldn't be just tier 2 Rantadung. It would be refined into a resource. So you put in raw or iron, you get iron ingots out of it.
I don't know, that's when they talked about oh man, it was in there somewhere, and maybe I just
Yeah.
misheard it, but it seemed like you like a matter of like combining. Oh, okay, I have this many of the tier 1 ones, and I can combine them to make this many of the tier 3 ones or something. And I'm like, well, would that change the appearance of
Yeah.
it and make it a different looking thing? Um,
The question is also like, can you, after refining them, can you turn them into not in a box materials?
yeah,
So far, anything that enters a box, if it's not a placed item, so anything bought from shops, is not in a physical state inside the box. So we can buy. Well, I don't know if we can actually buy Hadanite and the gem stuff from shops, but we can't take them out of commodity boxes when we buy them.
yep.
Um,
But I mean that applies
so
to anything. You upgrade your armor chest piece. Will that does it does it just change the stats or will it change the appearance?
it better change the appearance, or else they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I would hope so. It's something to think about.
Yeah,
Um, Another note I had. So when
it'd
people
be
are
pretty
talking,
crappy if you like had a legendary armor and you were able to upgrade to tier 3, and you just look like the guy who just picked up his new legendary armor. Like it's like you worked so hard for it. You spent so much money on it.
they mentioned a player-driven economy during CitizenCon, but then they also said specifically that Star Sim drives the economy. But when they say player-driven economy, they're talking about a player-driven player-to-player economy.
Yes.
Like, and because as far as I could tell from what they're saying, you're not going to be able to buy from an NPC a tier 3, tier 5 item, what have you.
Yes.
Upgraded high tier items. You're going to be able to buy the lower tier items, your stock stuff, your common stuff, from NPC shops, and that's what will be circulating around the verse via Star Sim and everything. But if you want these higher tier things, you will either make them yourself or you will have to engage in the player driven player to player economy in order to acquire these things. Um, it's a subset of the economy.
Yep.
But like they talked about player to player transactions on the roadmap, like that's what this is for. Yeah,
Yep.
you could make it for yourself, but if you get good at it and you have the blueprints like Naz was talking about it, and you've put your Kindle reader to your forehead and you can now make cool things. Yeah, you can make it for yourself, but you can also engage in the player to player economy to make it for profit. Or you
Yep.
can also, the I think another question I have is, okay, yeah, you can make it for players, but can you engage? Can you make high tier items as part of a contract with a guild guild organization for the
Or
crafting
even
things?
not contracted. Can you just like, again, back to the P4AR, can you craft a higher tier P4AR and just sell it back to, because basic RPG vendors, sell it back to a gun shop and say, hey, this is worth more than the P4AR that I just looted from,
Hmm.
the thousands of retrieval ops I've done. So you could just get profit that way by just selling back into the game, thereby voiding it, taking it out of the economy.
Yeah.
So it just kind of keeps stuff moving.
I would just like to be able to see contracts to say like, oh, okay, well,
Well, yeah, crafting contracts, like you mentioned, I think would definitely be a thing. Hey, craft me
yeah.
like 5 things.
But not even to not craft the tier 1 stuff that the NPCs would use, but to be able to craft high tier stuff and for those higher tier, higher rep contracts from NPC organizations.
Yeah.
And that just made me think and that was my note, crafting of different tiers of med beds. You saw I forgot to leave that playing. Sorry. You saw the different stats, the examples that they had. And now I'm just thinking about okay, what would those different stats do for a med bed? Oh, this is actually a great shot right here. Because so many people are, I'm just going to build a base and it's going to be a one stop. I'm going to be a one man operation. And it's like, no, there's no way you're going to be able to have a huge base all by yourself and you're going to run it and you're going to supply it and maintain it all by yourself. That's what CIG is telling you point blank without telling you in full words. But
so what they will say is you can, but the amount of time you'll spend on each project, you will be outpaced by anyone who has 2 or more people.
Well, and it's just a matter of you have to gather the resources to make the stuff. You have to gather the resources for resource management to keep your thing going. Your enterprise going.
Well, it's a solo kingship. Fly it or a solo take it.
Yeah, like your small hab right here. You can upgrade it, but that talks about okay, you have integrity, you have wear resistance, you have power requirements, hacking, water requirements. So in order for your hab to function, it requires power, it requires water. It will deteriorate over time. It is not an invincible structure. It has an integrity, and it does have wear and tear. And so that's you can upgrade your hab to give it more resistance, but you'll have to continually to maintain just a small hab. And anything that's functioning, you're gonna have to provide resources in and replace fuses and consistently repair it just to keep it working. That's it. This is why I like colony sims, because you have to not only manage the structures, but you also have to manage the people. But it's just like in any colony sim, once you get to a certain amount, once you get to a certain tech level and a certain infrastructure level, you have to go out and get more colonists because you won't be able to keep up and things will just stop, grind to a screeching halt. Or you'll get this part done and you have to do this and then do this, and things will fall by the wayside. That's what this is. This is a colony sim. And a colony sim requires colonists. And you can only have so big of a colony with one person. And even if you had NPCs working for you, you have to pay them, which means you have to go out and make money in order to pay them, as well as feed them and all that. So there is no just a single player Factorio base building in Star Citizen. Let's see. So for the research part, like researching upgrades, I was really hoping, that not like realistic science, but there was going to be like sort of a gambling type system on, trying to discover a breakthrough. And, you have to go through multiple attempts with, and you end up wasting resources and, maybe things change or something like that. But in order to, finally research this upgrade versus the example they gave of craft 100 of these, and I'm like, nope, that's not how I want research to work. That's kind of lame for me. But I mean, that's just an example, and they could put in any type of requirements in there and just make it work.
I definitely want research, either a mini game or just let me burn the resources and it does a timer and it maybe even like has a chance of failing.
Yeah, chance of failing. You make an attempt at research and it burns. It has this chance of working, but it burns this much resources, and that's the gamble you make. And if you have excess resources, then you do the research, and then you're just out the resources and the time, and obviously, it should take time and stuff, but I'm just going to craft 100 of them. I'm like,
Yeah, please. Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that, surgery. Don't do that.
yeah. And
Don't do
not
that.
make it the same. Like, if you could make it so each attempt is different. Okay, well, now I need 3 of this and 5 of this, whereas before I needed 5 of this and 3 of this.
Yeah.
So you can't just collect up 1,000 of one thing, and you just know you can just keep hitting that button like a slot machine, and you're a little lady in a casino.
Yeah. Even if it was the same resources, just different quantities each time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Make modifications to make it not predictable.
Yeah.
I think would make it feel more researchy, even though it's super gamified.
Yeah.
I did like one of my questions was, how does upgrading affect the vehicle versus the component upgrades? You upgrade your C1 Spirit from a tier 3 to a tier 5. What does that do that upgrading your components doesn't do? And is it just going to increase? Yeah, but what are those base stats for ships going to look like?
Armor.
Yeah, I mean, we're just guessing, but it wouldn't be your stats that are affected. I don't think it would be your stats that are affected by your components. So what does that leave for us?
I mean, a lot of the
survivability,
stuff
wear
they
and
showed
tear,
with the building, I'd imagine, like weatherization and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I imagine, but they didn't give an example, so I'm like, okay. Yep. It makes sense too for like weapons and stuff. Weight would be super cool.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Tough
I like that all of this gives you so many more reasons, and they mentioned that in the later presentations, but this gives you so many more reasons to play other than just earning UEC.
Yep.
You have and everybody's going to have their own motivations. Your motivations are going to be different than mine, and ours might cross paths and stuff, and that might be the impetus for us to work together or something. But it's exponentially more reasons to play and do things just with adding this in. Yeah, just the crafting and base building portion. Really, especially the crafting, but I think crafting. I do. That's the other thing is the fact that there are public crafting terminals. So you're like, no, I don't want to build a base. Okay, sweet. You just go use the public crafting terminal. We talked about the claiming a blueprint. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I said one of my notes is good to finally hear how player refining will work, because crafting is an integral part of refining, but they'll use the same system, just different structures or things for refining your mind materials and such. But like we talked about, I like that there's multiple different types of crafting machines. And like if you just want to be a miner and you want to refine your own ores that you're getting, then you just build the one that you want.
Yep.
And you do that thing. I did one thing that I heard during the base building part was they said construction grav cart lets you survey the land in lawful systems. And that was a direct quote. And I was like, so if you're in an unlawful system, can you not survey the land? How does that work? And I don't know if that was just
Didn't he say
Freudian slip.
Survey and claim in lawful systems?
Construction grav cart lets you survey the land in lawful systems. I literally grabbed that from the transcript. And I'm like, huh. And
it doesn't make any sense.
And like if it's unlawful, can you just not see the resources under the ground or something? Like, how does that work? I don't know.
That's all data stuff. Like that should be universal.
That's why I put it in there, because I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
We hadn't touched on the hollow placement of furniture and items yet.
Oh yeah, that's my not the next one, but the next data point is
Okay.
so in terms of additional gameplay, and we talked about structures requiring maintenance and resources and have wear and tear. Well, if you have a power plant that requires fuel, hooray, the Starfarer finally has a fucking thing to do. Because not only can you refuel ships, but you're gonna need to transport fuel to your base to fuel your power plant. If that's the kind of power plant you use, if you're not using, geothermal or solar or something like that. But if you're running off of fuel, you're going to need someone to bring you fuel if you don't bring it to yourself. But that's, a great player to player interaction of I don't have a Starfarer. I don't have a way to transport fuel. Can you bring me fuel? And that's the player to player economy. And, you just, uh, uh, but it's that's a big part of the resource management aspect is having fuel to generate power. Um, I said I love that decorative AR will be for hangars and ships, etc., not just bases. So I thought that was pretty awesome because the way we place things to decorate our hangars or to put things on ships is pretty cumbersome right now. And
Mm-hmm.
having the same thing that they're building for base building, be able to use that in anything that you have ownership over, is pretty sweet.
I think the because it won't fit through the door is artists being artists. They wanted the doors to look a certain way. They didn't want freight doors for every front door.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I
Yep.
have no qualms with it.
It just
It's a
means that
game. This is just
you,
one of the things that they do.
yeah, that before you brought it in the box that came from Space IKEA before you assembled it, and now you can't get it back out of the door while it's fully assembled. But in reality, you would be able to just take your Allen wrench and take it apart again. But this is just easier and makes sense. Oh, speaking of this on screen right now, you've got this big old refinery thing. I don't like how it's all open air. I wish that this was an enclosed structure that you go into in order to operate this. It just seems odd to me that you're standing out in the middle of the weather operating your refinery console and there's no like place that you can go in and sit down at a terminal and it's climate controlled and you could take your helmet off, and take care of all these refinery jobs and stuff. No, if this is a not a habitable environment, you have to be in your spacesuit and standing out here, ready to get zapped by lightning. I thought that was kind of weird. Like, you have all of this, you could just put walls and a ceiling on it. It feels
Makes
weird that
sense.
it's all open like that. Um,
Yeah.
I did have a concern with your resource extractors because it just showed this one little fuse spot. I'm hoping that there are multiple places for fuses that you need and that there is more to do in order to extract resources than just push button. Because that's something they have said for years that you wouldn't be able to just push button, it's automated, you get resources. I hope the only interaction isn't just replacing fuses and then moving crates.
That's all they alluded to last year that the interaction was moving crates.
Yeah. I hope
But
that there's more than just moving crates for the interaction. Like, I hope that there is something that you have to do in order to interact with this process to get it to keep going, not just
yeah,
push button and it
makes sense.
runs and prints crates. Um, remove, for gameplay purposes and for balance purposes, remove some of the.
Always trying to get timed out.
I was gonna say, don't keep spamming. Um, but yeah, and all of this really emphasizes why the freight elevator system was so important to get in this year and get working.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
needed it done not only for us to play with it in game right now, but for them to be able to continue to develop this feature because it all is based off of how that works. this thing generates boxes that come out of a freight elevator. They get moved over to another freight elevator where they go into a magic inventory to be refined, and then those come out and they go somewhere else. Like without freight elevators, big and small, none of this would work. And my last point is I like how they mentioned that low tech farming is based on the Genesis data of where the soil type and humidity and temperature and get enough rainfall. So like you could actually be a legit space farmer, but that the high tech was resource based, and you have to make sure you have enough water coming in, and nutrients and power for light and stuff like that. So but you farming doesn't seem ultra simple. Like it seems like it's pretty complex gameplay, and you have to be
And
intelligent
ranching. They
about
also
it.
mentioned ranching.
And ranching, yeah.
Very, very neat.
Yeah, it's all super cool stuff. We're definitely going to see a whole lot more of that, and get lots of big updates. But it's like here it is. They're doing it on screen right now. You put a box in. There's people flying
I
around
think
and
it's funny
landing
that
on it.
these they don't have the lockdown grid yet, like actual cargo grid on the elevators.
Yeah.
So that was funny. Like you can see they're not locking down at all.
They didn't.
Not that far into development.
Oh,
Or this
they
was
did mention
mid rework of the multi-tool.
I did. There is another thing. One last thing is they mentioned multiple archetypes for structures that we can build. I hope that will reflect in the points of interest, the NPC points of interest.
Ah, yes.
Because the legacy outposts are so dated and so rudimentary, and so I hope that with the archetypes that we're going to be getting for our own bases, is what they will also be used. What those archetypes are what will be used for Starchitect, for driving what locations, both in function but also in terms of aesthetic. So we have a lot more variety and believability in the POI.
Yep.
Are you ready to move on to Captains of Industry?
Yes.
Alrighty.
I'm also gonna read it and run for a moment while you give your stuff. Unfortunately, my headphones are not Wi-Fi or wireless. All right. Captains of Industry. Also, the first half the show was like the Pioneer Lancer and the SCM. So it's fine. Uncover the ships and ground vehicles that will serve as your primary tools for base building in the verse. Revisit classic and more. All right, I'll be right back.
I think I brought it up earlier, but I don't understand how the CSV FM has 4 SCU, but along with 2 medium drones, and it's little. John Cruz said it has like a little miniature freight elevator on it, so like you can't see the boxes. You put them in, and they disappear. It has all that in the same space, and it doesn't seem right that the dedicated cargo truck has the same SCU as the one that also builds bases. I feel like it should have less SCU, and that would give more reason for having both vehicles. It encourages you to work together to make sure you got that supply chain bringing in containers. I like how the Starlancer build has articulating arms, just like the tractor beam articulating arm on the Zeus CL, but this is for the drones to land on, and that's how they get resupplied. So I thought that was really cool. I would love it if the drones required fuel, and so not only do you have to make sure that they have enough supplies to build their structure, but they have to return every now and then to refuel to keep flying around and building. And so that they would siphon, like take fuel off of your ship, and so you need to make sure you keep your ship refueled just to keep the drones doing their thing. I thought it was pretty telling that the Starlancer TAC has 2 tier 3 beds versus anything higher. We have other ships that have higher tier beds of the same size. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I think it might bode for changes with medical gameplay and medbed tiers on different ships. Vodka's LT says streamers say base building is big L since it's not base building like Rust. What in particular about it not being Rust like is it that they want? Hey, Hotshot Henry 07, good to see you. How you doing, bud? How's the stash, my friend? We're just going over day 2 of CitizenCon, talking about our reactions to what was presented. We covered the roadmap. It is so irritating. Oh, the mustache is a little bit too long. Is it tickling? Hey, Naz is back.
What? No.
Yeah. So I was just saying that I found the cargo for the FM being the same as the SM kind of weird for me. I felt like having it be a little bit limited would make more sense. I talked about how I like the articulating resupply arms for the drones, but I hope that not only do you have to keep them resupplied with materials, but also fuel. I think it would be cool if they like siphon fuel off of your fuel tanks. Standardized base modules, everything the same in Rust is more individualized. Oh, I think what we've seen is just the first version, because they talked about having multiple archetypes, and so things are gonna look different. Things are gonna be different sizes. With the way
Not to mention
CIG
the
does
future updates
art,
of different modules.
The first version of base building is going to be just that, the first version, but they're going to have their artists cranking out more modules of different archetypes with different things to put in them. This is just intense. Intense, because like the art style that they showed doesn't do it for me. It looks kind of crusadery to me, and that's not my vibe. I'm hoping for something more Argo industrial or more military based looking, armored and hardened, versus the sort of I don't want to call Crusader futuristic, because it's not futuristic like Origins futuristic, but it's like futuristic, but the step below
clean
Origin.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, it's clean sci-fi. Yeah, and that's not my vibe. And I think we'll get there eventually. But this is the for tier 1, for version 1. This is pretty great. And I like how there's the pre-built modules that are pre-configured for the things that you want, but there's also just the empty buildings, and then you configure them for how you want. That big base building should be leaps and bounds more individualized. Yeah, eventually it will be, but I don't have that expectation for this first round at all, especially since it's coming next year. But I don't think base building 2-3 years down the road will be the same as what we have next year. Let's see. I liked how with the Star... I thought it was kind of telling... I'm just repeating back to Naz, but I thought it was kind of telling how the TAC has 2 tier 3 beds. Not higher tier beds, even though it's a good-sized ship. I wonder if that means anything for bed sizes and how things will work with medical gameplay in the future. I like how they put an emphasis on the Starlancer Max having VTOLs or additional VTOLs due to the extra weight. CIG continuing to put emphasis on that and double down on it being important. And I don't know if you noticed, but did you see these maneuvering thrusters on the Star Lancer? Some of them are the sort of traditional MISC type we've seen, but they've got these weird ones that have. I'm trying to find a good image. They have like, they're circular, but then they have like four little circles in them. Oh, there's that drone articulating arm. Sorry, I'm scrolling
That's
through
fine.
trying to. I hadn't ever seen this. This right here is a maneuvering thruster. I've never seen maneuvering thrusters like that from any MISC ship, so I thought that was kind of interesting looking that they're having that they've got new thruster types.
Interesting.
Part of the crew.
Hey, thanks for the follow, Vodkas.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship. Part of the crew. Part of the ship. Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Robert Rose says, so I have to bio you a question. The internal supply of the FM. I want to know the internal supply of the trolley or how it gets resupplied. I think they said that it has to, like, because they showed how some of the crates disappeared. And I think you have to have, like, the crates basically within a zone around the trolley, which is interesting.
Yeah. So instead of having to load everything into an internal storage on the crafting ship, it can use the resources in its vicinity.
Yeah.
Which for most physicalized building, that's how it works. Or most games that have physicalized building.
It's kind of interesting though, because I wonder if you had boxes lying on the ground around your Star Lancer build or the FM, if the drones could build from that as well, or if they are restricted to the inventory that's in the FM that they showed off with the little mini freight elevator, or they had the freight elevator thing on the build.
I do believe
well.
that they did say something to the effect of they can go for resources that aren't specifically in the internal inventory for the FM and the build.
Yeah. Vodka says, what are the big red flags in base building for you so community should react and advocate for something better that would save the game? Save the game? I don't think the game needs saving. I think that the bones of base building, because this is the high level view of base building. This is not all the details. We're going to get so much more information on base building over the next year and beyond. But this is just the high level view. So you don't need saving from something that isn't even released yet, and we're just getting the 50,000 foot view. I think the save the game is really hyperbolic at this point, because we just started hearing about how this is going to work.
I think the only problems I see is, as was mentioned, lack of individuality. But again, tier 1, tier 0.
And that's an art thing.
And
that's an art thing. It isn't
that's an art thing.
a design issue.
That's something they can evolve into. It's not something like there's nothing wrong with it. I don't have anything that's wrong. The only other concern I have is how slow they are to make paints in the game now. Having to wait for paints for base building and space stations and all the other things they've announced and stuff. Not to mention, how long is it going to take to make the crafting and make these 1,000+ blueprints and get the quantity and quality, and having to use Genesis to get quality resources and stuff. How long is this all going to take? So more concerns, not the end is nigh. If they don't fix this, I'm leaving kind of stuff. It's nothing like that.
There's that thruster. I think the big thing for me is the resource management has been touted a whole lot. And resource management on ships, you've got your coolers providing cooling, you've got power, you need your fuses, you've got fuel, you have to send power out, but you also have fuel coming in. And the base built for bases, they talked about bringing fuel in for power, and certain structures require water. and I assume that there is life support and stuff, but they didn't really talk a whole lot about the resource management. And I think resource management for bases should be as important, if not more important, and more difficult than on ships.
Mm.
More resource consumption, more difficult to manage. Um, the I stopped on that like the resource extractor thing because he stood in front of the one fuse port that we saw, and I was like, that giant structure has just one fuse that you have to replace. I'm like, and that could just be hyperbole. We don't know. We didn't see the whole thing, but I want things like that to have multiple fuses that you have to replace, and um, they wouldn't have components, but I want resource management to really matter, so that way if you have a big old sprawling base and you don't have enough people to manage it, that you're just going to be run ragged trying to keep that thing running. And I want it to all but force you to work with other people, um, to keep a base, to build a big base and to keep it running. um, and the limited portrayal of resource management that they showed isn't encouraging. Um, but we'll see, because that wasn't it wasn't a detailed focus on that. It was the high level view. That's the big things for base building for me. Um, and it's, you can't really pass too much judgment just because, like, oh well, they didn't do this, and it's like, well, that doesn't mean that it isn't part of the plan. We're
Yeah.
just getting the 50,000 foot view of the plan, so you can't be overly critical. You have to be, you have to look at what was presented, and that's
Yeah.
it
Like
in
if you
isolation.
if you get too much caught up in trying to extrapolate the end goal from what we saw, like we saw one kind of generator, maybe a 5 to 10 different buildings,
Mm-hmm.
all in the same style at a mid kind of quality. Like if you try and extrapolate that all the way out to this is base building, you end up selling the entire game short, because it's just
They
it's pre night well it's early gray box in
yeah.
everything. Some stuff is white box. They haven't started on farming yet. Not to
they
mention
had
data cores, solar panels, obviously, that they talked about,
they had
refineries.
an
Like,
hour to talk about crafting and base building. They could have
yeah.
done the entire con on that and still probably not covered everything that they're going to talk about with
Mm-hmm.
us. Um,
Base building, crafting are entire games.
yeah. Um,
Vehicles.
oh yeah. When we haven't gotten to the Pioneer part. I just wish when they were, talking about the Pioneer and this image right here, while John Crew was talking about, I wish they had little labels coming up to make it easier to understand what's what.
Yeah, it was. If you look over
Um,
here and then over here, it's like, where is here?
I'm hoping that since they reconcepted, that they will release this and some more imagery on the ship page at IAE.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would be the right thing to do. Um, to give people better information and more up to date information.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like there is information missing from this image to help make it clear. Um, the uh, the ships up here. Sar Terrapin for the win. So excited that they finally getting it. The Crusader Intrepid is really intriguing to me. It's got that big old honking gun, um, or at least it looks pretty big. But it's it's not another Ares. It has an interior. Um, it's not a little ship, but it's not like cutter sized at all either. For like it looks like it's very much the Crusader version of the Zeus and the C1, or the Spirit.
I think it's the blue rooms. Can you pause it?
What's up?
When it gets to the blue rooms, I want you to pause it.
Blue rooms.
Yeah. So continue with your thing till they start with the silhouettes.
Oh, here, I'll just go to the silhouette.
And that's the start of the last segment.
Here we go.
All right, so I have the live feed, the Discord feed up. So I'm gonna explain which each of these ships are as they come through because I have most of them down pat. Good like 6 of them we already know their names.
Oh, and since we have nearly 100 people,
And this is
in
not
chat
leaked
right now,
information. Nothing I talk about most of the time is leak information.
Yeah.
So this is just my observations and what is obviously seen from both CitizenCon and post and pre-CitizenCon.
So the direct quote from John Crew is that he said, "Some emphasis on some of the vehicles we're working on in the next 12 months."
Yes.
That's what this
So
is.
many weasel words there.
Yeah. And that's the thing is people got confused because they were talking about this way back here, but then this is a different segment. The next 12 months, this is what they're working on. He said nothing about aiming to deliver like they said with these images back here. When they presented these images, they said specifically, this is some of what we're aiming to deliver in 12 months, and they got not all these, but the Legionnaire, and then a bunch of other ships. They're mostly variants. But these images are just what's going into production in the next 12 months. Not that they aim to deliver. And
There's some
Jake,
big ships in here.
Jake very clearly reiterated that, and a lot of people didn't hear what John said. They just saw pretty pictures and thought, "Oh, they're doing the same thing." No. So here we go.
All right. All right, so we have the CSV SM something. This is the FM. This is a gray cat. We don't know if it's tracked or not. Where to go?
So this is the Argo
That's the
CSV.
CSV FM.
Okay, I'm going to pause when we get to each one for you.
Okay, so I don't have to talk super fast. Great.
Yep. The base building one.
Yes, the base. That. Yeah. This is a gray cat. If you zoom in on the headlights, specifically the under headlights bits, they have the same art as the UTV concept.
Oh, okay.
It's got a little flat turret on top. It's hard to tell. Some people say it's tracked. Some people say it's not tracked. It's hard to tell, but it looks like a gray cat Ursa, basically. It just looks super cool, and I'm open for anything more gray cat.
It does. See, I mean, if it was gray cat and these were like the monster version of the gray cat wheels, like on the oh wait, no, though that's those are no, I was thinking of the tumbrel wheels.
Oh,
but
yeah,
no.
Yeah. Tumbrel.
Yeah. I'm going to be hopeful that these are tracked.
Yeah, this is not the UTV. This is much bigger than the UTV. Yeah. UTV is a golf cart, like a Can-Am golf cart thing. Like, this is not that. This has an enclosed cabin.
Yep.
Whatever
it is, it looks super cool. I'm very interested.
All these look like production ready, so I'm like really excited to see all these. Obviously, an Anvil Atlas platform. This could be the base building variant we saw last year. Though, as a note, the one last year, even though it wasn't a whole model, didn't have a turret on it. This one has a turret on it. Just a point of difference, but I would bet that this is the just base building Atlas.
Yeah, I think it got adjusted a lot, but I think that they're still doing the base building Atlas combo thing, whatever it was. It just like if you know how big the Atlas chassis is for the Spartan and stuff, and you see how many wheels this is and how long it is, it's definitely way bigger. And so, I feel like they just, because all we saw last year was just a white box
concept, basically.
Yeah. And so that could have changed a lot, and throwing some guns onto it for, a little bit of defense, while you throw up your
It's an
your
Atlas.
base.
Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if this wasn't, but I would bet this is the base building one.
Oh, I just had a thought.
Aye.
What if this was the Onager?
No idea what that is. And I assume that's a leak.
No, it's not a leak. The Onager is a fan concept of a self-propelled artillery trailer variant thing with the Atlas.
Like a really big missile car?
No, big gun, big
Oh,
indirect
big
artillery
gun?
gun. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I don't
A
know.
fueler.
It
I would
could. I
bet
mean,
fueler,
look at
if the
that
thing was
acid.
round, it's not round.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there's tanks on the back. Plus, RSI array needs to have the first refueler because we've been seeing it for years. A larger APC? No, they already have an APC.
Oh, and it's the goddamn Spartan
Spartan?
is so
Yeah.
unnecessarily huge. All right, keeping it going.
It's
Yeah,
round
it is
adjacent.
round adjacent.
Everything's round adjacent. Hornet Mark II Ghost.
Yeah. We had two
As
more
far as the
variants that they
Hornet
had to
Mark
Mark
II
II.
Tracker.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because we can see the thumbnails here and the thumbnails on the roadmap. The Carapin.
Yep. It has the stretcher. That's a dead giveaway.
Yeah, it's Terrapin, obviously, and plus the medical stuff around. So,
There's the Carapin, and I think someone called it the Hospiturtle or something like that.
Terrapin, the Trauma Pin. There's a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
Metapin, yeah. So I first called this one as the Guardian. This is not. If you take this image and the Guardian that they showed just a few minutes ago, there's no way those line up. So we technically have no idea what the heck this is, but it's another 4-armed monstrosity.
Could be a
Guardian
variant.
No. Like, look at the time and then go back to the orange panel, the orange room panel, because that shows a side-on shot. Yeah, right there.
3625 and okay.
Look how slim the Guardian is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Guardian.
It could be from Mirai and just be
Yeah.
a different Mirai ship.
Yep, or an alien ship. This could be a Gotek.
Yep.
Though it does have feet, so not really a Gotek thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing is it having feet makes it not because the Guardian doesn't have feet because I don't think it did.
Oh, they didn't show it landed. No.
No, but the Mirai floats, right? There's no landing gear on the Fury. I assume
This is true. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, so not a Mirai. You're right. So this is a Prospector. It is the same size as a Prospector. I spent 2 hours trying to get a shot to line up to do the whole thing. There's actually somebody who did a video to actually get shots of real ships and put them in. I forgot what the name was actually called. I think this is a Gold Pass update on the Prospector. Because that is a mining head. That's not a salvage head.
Yeah.
Everything else lines up. There's also, if you look in front of the front guy, there's a cargo elevator with what looks like 3 cargo boxes on it.
Oh yeah, you can kind of see that. Yep.
I took it all into Photoshop and tweaked it all.
Interesting.
There's also the weird rear view mirror panel thing on the front. And the current version doesn't have the lights above the cockpit.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not on my bingo card.
So, Grim said he was convinced it was a salvage head.
I don't know enough about salvage
Interesting.
or mining. You said, was that you that
Yes.
pointed out this? Yeah,
Not the intro. No, this is a consolidated Outland medium ship. That foot, specifically that foot, has the exact same design as the struts inside the Pioneer. Like, 1 for 1. I am 100% convinced this is a consolidated Outland ship.
Interesting.
It also has a very wide face.
It's so flat. It
Yes.
very much makes me
Pioneer.
think of it also reminds me of your hero ship in Star Wars Outlaws and then the ship that is in Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I'm very curious to see it, though. It does look interesting.
This I've nicknamed the Heron after help naming it with my stream. It's obviously Drake. These are the
It's got a very interesting
Corsair
cockpit,
wings.
though.
I've got nothing as to what the heck it actually is. It's the Treehouse ship. I don't think it's Drake. How do you not think it's Drake? How on earth have you come to that conclusion?
It's bigger than you think.
I want to know any evidence.
Because look at how small that guy is, and look
Yeah.
how tall this thing is. Just the body, not including these folded up wings.
Yeah. It's
a very awkward looking ship, that's for sure.
The Reliant has bulky wings though. They're not flimsy wings. The Reliant is thick wings.
Yeah.
And also, it's flat. This has no bubbliness to it at all.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one.
Not asymmetric. This is absolutely asymmetric.
Yeah.
This is the Apollo.
Yep. The Apollo, which is interesting, though, because it doesn't show... There's no, like... They did a dead giveaway with the Metapin, the Carapin, whatever you want to call it, with the
yeah, there's new med stuff around.
With the stretcher. But yeah, those look like the
cells
Apollo.
in the front glass and the little antennae things on top.
You got the turret right there. Yeah.
Yep. The last few are really easy. We know all about them. This is the Star Lancer. We don't know which version this is. It's really hard to tell them apart.
We're getting the Max at
yeah,
IE,
Max is at
right?
IE. TAC is later on next year, and build is TBD.
Okay. I feel like that's probably the... let's see.
Probably TAC. But we've also seen several other build things.
Yeah, they can't tell because I don't think you can see the guns, which are the dead giveaways.
Yeah,
so.
it'd be right near that foot on the bottom. That front foot. TAC because guns. It has the same guns. Perseus.
Yep. Dead giveaway.
Very
easy.
obviously.
Yep.
Ironclad, also very obvious. Can't wait to see that in game.
This is the
Tractor beam.
The tractor beam one, the cargo ironclad. So whether that means they'll be building
so
both at
specifically
the
not
same
the
time,
assault. Interesting.
Yeah. Whether we won't be getting the assault the same time we get the base, right?
I didn't say it wasn't asymmetric. I said, wow. Flight mechanic will not support that flight. There's also the landing gears, not like other ships in the game. Correct, but that's what Drake is. And then the Pioneer.
Yep. God, look how huge it is.
It is massive.
Big.
Those are tanks down there. Those are storm tanks.
Yeah, little itty bitty people. Cool. That's it for the ship presentation. I like how they had it driving by and popping out. Oh, I gotta start this back over.
Oh boy, I don't have a lot to say about 1.0 because we did kind of discuss a lot of 1.0 while we went through the 1.0 roadmap stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I have to say about 1.0 is I'm glad the line in the sand is now drawn and we have a goal, but it's a lot of like, let's wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because like everything that's we talked about here or everything that they talked about here is going to be expanded. Literally everything. And how everything actually shakes out is anyone's guess. And also, my level of energy is falling off a cliff.
It's okay. Again, this is, well, so at least base building, they gave us, it's a high level view, but you can see it. This is, these things that they talk about in here is words and ideas, which is great. But this year, the rest of CitizenCon last year, and leading up to last year, it's been things that are in production we're going to show you, not tell you, and this is back to telling you until the very end. And even then, this is early. A lot of concept art. There's stuff in production, but it's still a lot of, they visualize the ideas, but up before the station building part, this is ideas and words, and it's ideas and words of things that if you've been paying attention, you probably shouldn't be surprised about. Other than like we talked about, that I think my biggest thing that I don't like is the whole seal shield thing, but everything else didn't really hit me out of left field. I wasn't surprised that, um, but it'll be interesting to see how these things go into production and how that work turns out. Because like when we were going over the 1.0 roadmap, lots of big ticket items that are going to require a lot of work, and big ticket items that are ideas, and we don't know anything about the production or implementation of that, just ideas and words. And so like half of this presentation was very much, it's great that these are the ideas that we want for 1.0. This is it. This is the 1.0 idea. Okay, well, now we're finally cementing the words and ideas that we've been getting for years about things that they want to include in the game, and they've cemented the list and essentially finalized that list. But we still have a lot of things on that list that aren't in production or are in early production, and we don't know how they're going to work. Which I mean is fine, but we kind of got spoiled with everything else, especially last year. Of hey, you are seeing it working in engine, and you're going to see it, a lot of it over the next year, and in the not too distant future. You are seeing how it works, not we're telling you how we think it's going to work from a grand scheme. If you don't have any notes, I can just list off some of the things that came to my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So one quote, they said not launching with 100 star systems, because a lot of people are like, no, they're not going to do 100 star systems anymore. They're backing away from that. But that's not what they said. They said they're not launching with 100 star systems, and they said why, but they said nothing about backing away from 100 star systems. And the entirety of the Genesis presentation was about scale, and how filling the universe, filling a universe with life, not filling 5-star systems with life, filling a universe with life. So
I'm not sure if it was the 1.0 or the Genesis panel, but in one of the two panels, they did say 100 plus. There are 80 star systems on the star map. I'm not saying they've expanded them. I'm just saying the tech allows them to dream of a time they can go beyond the current star map. We still have the entire region of the Krthak that is not on there. That they will eventually, given the time and money, want to go into that storyline.
Yep. We talked about it before, but like I'm super excited about the main story. I am, how remember when they did the for the Valakar fight, and they had that one player, that one friend. Well, I'm not that one friend in terms of wearing goofy stuff. I'm that one friend who, as like the new MMO comes out and we're all grouping up to, work our way up and everything, and we have to go and do all the different quests. I'm the one friend that wants to stay and talk to the NPCs and read all the scrolls that you find and get all the story. And everybody's like, no, come on, we got to keep going. We got to get here so we can grind you up to do this PvP raid content. And I'm like, but the story, and it's back here, and I'm super excited about the story, because the way they described it, it just doesn't feel like it's a thing, because it's not a traditional MMO, and you don't have to do that grind and everything, and you can pick up the story and put it back down later. Like that sounds good to me. I like the way
Yep.
they're presenting
in a
it.
very modern way of going about it, and I really like how
Mm-hmm.
they know like a lot of the most I would say of their audience is not I can veg the entire like summer break and get through all the content. Like we have jobs,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes barely have weekends, and some of us have kids, sometimes several kids to take care of. Like
Oh God.
it's it's not it's just not feasible for and other like bigger traditional games are also taking note. Like you gotta have 15-20 minute game times, not half an hour waiting in the lobby and a half an hour game. It has to be quicker than that. You have to be able to have more pause time
Mm-hmm.
because whatever happens, whether it's you know having to go to work, having to put it down, only having like 20 minutes in the evening right before you have to like turn in or go work out or whatever it is your routine is, whatever like friends, family you have, games have to work around that. Games are not the most important thing, and they have to contend with stuff that, you know, eating, getting enough sleep is much more important.
Yeah. Um, and it's really great that they are using it to introduce you to the world, but also to tutorialize the professions. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really smart too. It'll be interesting to see how that works for, okay, but I don't want to mine. Then do you just not do that part of the story, or how does that work? Um, but I think that that's really, they talked about that specifically because it's very much sandbox right now and nothing helps you. And I think having the story be the part that helps you along and introduces you to the different gameplay elements and the professions, so that way you're not trying to figure it out on your own, is sorely needed. Um, the let's see. Um, Oh, here's a quote that I pulled. It's a narrative experience that will be a crafted story through the star systems and professions of the Star Citizen universe, taking players on an exciting adventure that will finally kick off the growing tension between Earth and Terra. Finally, kick off. So the end of the story is where that tension kicks off. So that's not the main theme of the story, but that's like what it leads up to.
Yeah, and basically it's where it turns into a live storied game,
Mm-hmm.
and to where
Um,
we'll be getting story drops and the universe evolving narratively.
I hope that as they do those story drops, that they find a way to tie you back to how you to the story, your prologue campaign, um, to tie it in.
I I don't know. I hope that the story is pretty irrelevant of the player. Like
Well,
this is
like
the
no,
story that's going on.
I mean, like you
Like
circle back around to, okay, you get these story drops, and that this story drop can bring you back around to this mission giver that was part of the story chain.
oh yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. The reuse
hey, old
of Michigan
friend,
for sure. Yeah,
good to see you again. It's been a long time.
yeah.
Um,
But I also like the powers at play are empires and
mhm.
giant conglomerates. Like these are the people that are playing the main story of Star Citizen. You are just along for the ride and whatever their whims are.
I love that they heavily incentivized it by tying citizenship to it. And it heavily incentivizes it for people that would benefit from citizenship. If you want PvP and you want pyro, then you don't have no need to do the story. It doesn't have any value for you. But if that's not your thing, then you get a lot of value, and it's very important for you to do that story because of the value of citizenship. And they said there's going to be more benefits. The primary one is being able to purchase land anywhere in the UEE, whereas civilians have restrictions, so they can still purchase land in the UEE, but they just said that there's restrictions. And so my thought on the restriction is, and actually let's see if we can
Not
find
on
a,
Castra.
Well, it's I want to find the screen with all the systems on it. Here we go. So, um, in the 5-star systems that we have right here, if you're a citizen and you can purchase land throughout the UE, it means you can purchase land in Castra, Terra, and Stanton on any planet. Because Stanton is a UE system, even though the planets are owned by the the corporations. You essentially you'd be purchasing land from them, but you would have the legal authority to do so. But civilians have restrictions. Well, what if that means that um, you, as a civilian, you can't buy land on a represented planet?
Mm.
So it not as big of a deal right now because CASCOM doesn't have Senate representation. But what if, as a civilian, you can't buy land on Terra because it has Senate representation, and you are not you don't vote in that Senate rate, and like I don't think Jen has representation either. But yeah, it's
It'll be
something to think
interesting
about,
if it's
like
per
what
planet or per
restriction
system.
per planet. Well, they said um, the verbiage was citizens can purchase land anywhere in the UE. Civilians have restrictions.
Mm.
So, what are those restrictions? Because like if you can purchase land in the UE because you're a lawful civilian, but what restrictions does that have in terms of like where in the UE? They didn't talk about that, but obviously I think that's going to be pretty significant. You know, if they
Yeah,
make
that makes
citizenship
sense.
that important. Um, we talked about how we talked about the location stories with the roadmap. Those will be really great, and I think that having that flavor of the difference between your location story at Levski versus your location story at Prime on Terra, I think will be really cool. Great opportunity. Um, Losing your ship should be significant. Quote end quote. This is great. And Naz, you and we've talked at length about the insurance system and when they first broke that down. And I think the way that they're doing that is really smart with insurance and warranties. And the insurance warranties, the cooldown claim timers, and the shuttle ship, that whole system feels really well thought out, but also not complicated to implement and balance. So I'm please introduce that sooner rather than later. You um, the instance fleet battles, I did not see that coming. Um, I actually like that idea, and I feel like they can make that believable in a way where, hey, you're going to, it's an instance fleet battle, so you could have it be PvP, you could have it be PvE content, but if it's PvE content, like maybe you rendezvous with these, pardon me, whether it's military or private military contractor ships, you rendezvous at this point, and then you guys all quantum to this point, and in quantum, you transition to an instance, and then you have your fleet battle. It feels like you're still in the PU, but it's in an instance, but no one can like hop in on you like if it was in the PU. And I feel like that's a really great way to put content into the game, but it's scenario based, but it doesn't
Hmm.
take you out of your immersion. I think there's a lot of different ways they could do that. Um, so at first, when I heard instance, I was like, but they said they weren't going to, and now I'm like, actually, no. With the tech that they have and what how they do things with other gameplay elements, they can do that without it feeling gamey. MMO where you have the loading screen of going down the elevator or opening the door or something like that, or taking a portal. It's like, no, it wouldn't change how you feel. You just wouldn't have people randomly drop in on you to
Hmm.
interrupt the experience. A couple more notes. The on top of all this will sit a dynamic layer powered by StarSim. While Star Sim will be the driving force in our dynamic economy, it would also track player and AI activity and dynamically spawn events based on on their actions. Hooray! Dynamic events, dynamic mission systems. No more static bullshit. But
Mhm.
Star Sim is not going away. Star Sim is still driving the economy, but the player-to-player economy is going to be player-driven, obviously. Um, Another quote, lawful systems will be a mixture of high, medium, and low security areas. Each of these areas will be monitored by law enforcement agencies, and depending on the location, will dictate the emergency response time. So very realistic, very believable. Um, but if you do a crime, law will be coming. You just if you're way far out from a planet or the space stations, it's going to take a while or take a bit longer. Initially, this response will be measured, but over time will escalate to overwhelming force. This means if someone is attacked, they can just hold out for a short duration and help will be on the way. This is great for people who want to be in Castra, in Terra, in Stanton. NPC help will come, NPC law enforcement will come, and it won't just be one, Crusader security and an Avenger. If that Crusader security and the Avenger gets shot down, and they will escalate and they'll send more ships and bigger ships, and it would be a believable response as if that you went on a crime spree. It's the GTA system, but it makes sense. We talked about the deadband switch earlier. I like the idea of the deadband switch, but deadband switch isn't ship blows up, ship turns off. I think that's a good way to implement that. We talked about the lore behind the SEAL network, and neither one of us like that idea. I think it just feels so overly done and forced, and I don't really think it adds anything. I think it's unnecessary. I think it's far better to just have players fighting over bases and making decisions on whether they want to raise it to the ground or steal the resources or take the base for their own.
Yep. Yep.
We talked about it for base building with the archetypes, hoping that makes its way back into NPC locations, and I hope the same thing for space stations. I hope we get multiple archetypes for space stations as well, but that also means that okay, you'll have player space stations that feel like they belong in the universe because they will look like the other archetypes that are available in the universe, but that we also get more point of interest variety as well. I don't know about you, but I thought the big observation tower thing on the space station looked weird and out of place and really vulnerable. I'm like,
And unnecessary again.
yeah,
Like,
what's the point of it? I could see it
it's
standing a little bit higher, but way the hell out here. When you can do the AR bird's eye view, like I just feel like somebody's gonna lock a torpedo onto that one little bit.
and all it is a bedroom. Like,
Yeah.
it's no. I will take my bedroom in the core, please. I don't need no.
Or give you the
Nobody
option
knows.
to not have it do that. I hope that there's a bit of customization in that regard.
Well, you definitely
Um,
don't have to build the crow's nest.
yeah,
It's an optional
yeah,
add-on.
it's an optional thing. Yeah, it's definitely an add-on that I don't. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Same. I like the Jupiter 2 look.
I do think that in terms of presenting space stations, the grandioseness of the space stations, um, uh, completely overwhelmed what CIG said, and I think that nobody heard what they were saying. They just saw space stations and said, "Oh, holy crap, this is amazing!" And and this is the last bit that I have to say, but didn't appreciate what CIG was saying in terms of the amount of effort that would be required to build and maintain a space station. Um, especially in correlating that with building player bases, where they
Mhm.
talked about, the space that we showed you before would take months of concerted effort. And that's a planet-side base, which is ostensibly less than a station. A station is going to be a massive effort for a large group of people over a long period of time, and that's just to build it, not even talking about keeping it running. But no one's talking about that part. And it's that Factorio thing of, oh, I'm going to build it and automate it, and it's going to run on its own. And it's like, no, nothing about Star Citizen is that way or has ever been intended to be that way. But people saw how cool the space station looked, and they didn't think about the work to get it,
Yep.
and then to keep it running afterwards. And so we've talked about this, like how this CitizenCon is probably going to be a come to Jesus moment for a lot of people on, like, is this the game they want to play? But I
Mhm.
think there's going to be a lot of come to Jesus moments later on with these big features of, okay, we don't know enough about this feature, but then when this feature comes, is this going to be a feature that you're actually interested in? Once it comes, you know, makes it into the game. Like
Yeah.
Naz is going to be into base building and crafting for sure, 100%. Even if it's not as, you know, even if it's not in, space engineers level or anything, it's going to be your thing. But there's going to be a lot of people who probably are going to be like, nope, that's not what I thought, and are going to dip out. And I don't think that there's nearly as many people who are going to be building space stations as, uh, when push comes to shove, as people who think that they're going to be building space stations right now.
Yeah.
But that's all that I've got. Um, in terms of thoughts, any other closing thoughts, Naz? Because we're coming up on 4 hours, so I think
Yeah, we
we've
are.
beat this horse.
Honestly, I've done so many post CitizenCon streams of my own. I don't know what to add. I think we covered it both in the roundup and here pretty well. But
Mhm.
we'll also be talking about this, for the next year. So whatever we didn't cover here, we'll be covering throughout the year. Like I said, it's nice to have a goal. It's really nice to have a goal.
Yeah, it's nice that they
And
they laid it down, but it's
mhm.
going to take a lot to flesh it out, for sure.
and I'm really excited to see. And it seems like they're now switching, or they have switched, and they intend to stay switched to a all Star Citizen development till 1.0.
That's actually, sorry. That is a good point, and I meant to bring that up because I wanted to hear what you
Yeah,
thought.
absolutely, absolutely.
So we got 2026 for Squadron.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a timeline for 1.0, but
Right.
it would make sense for Star Citizen to be in a much better position and much more complete position when Squadron releases. I don't think
Yep.
we're going to be 1.0 in 2026, but I don't think we're going to be that far behind. I think we'll you know the we'll be on the back half to the road to 1.0 at that point,
Mm-hmm.
if not the the last quarter mile essentially. Um,
I think they could get a tier 0 version of everything they said in by 26. Not by
mm,
26, but by the end of 26.
the See, that's for me, it's the story that I think is going to take a
I don't
while.
think they want. I don't even think much like Satisfactory. I don't think they even want to touch the story in the game until the drop of 1.0.
Yeah.
I don't think it's even going to it's going to be worked on, it's going to be polished, and it's going to be finished, and then it will be held until 1.0 drops, and then we can play the story.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think they're going to release it incrementally. I'm just saying that the amount of work to make a story
Mm-hmm.
like they're talking about, I feel like was going to be pretty significant along with everything else. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think it's a bit farther out at least. I think my question, and it's not related to 1.0, is Squadron 42 episode 1 releases in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
When are they going to start working on episode 2? If they're
If they're
working,
smart, if they're actually finally smart, post 1.0.
Could be.
because we've had way too long. I know they know that splitting the resources has cost them years of development. And so if they can just finish Star Citizen 1.0, there's a lot less work to continue development on it. They can move back to Squadron, finish that, then come back to Star Citizen for another big push. And then as Squadron Episode 2 finalizes, all the forces on Star Citizen, then as Squadron Episode 2 finishes and releases, they can move that back for Episode 3. That way, the force of the company stays on one project.
I think that they're going to spend a lot more effort on Star Citizen going forward. It's just interesting because they talk about how, like, we're still polishing Squadron and will be for another year and a half or so. And they talked about, they said last year how new features will get, built for the PU and brought into Squadron, what new features there are. But, obviously there's not going to be a lot of new features to bring into Squadron. It's just, keeping Squadron 42, Episode 2 and Episode 1 at feature parity with Star Citizen as Star Citizen develops. But it makes me wonder, like, okay, if you've got these strike teams polishing Episode 1, who are the teams that are going to be working on Episode 2? If the feature development will stay on Star Citizen, and when will they start working on that? Will those strike teams be all working on Episode 1 until Episode 1 releases, or as they finish their work, will those strike teams stay on Squadron and begin work on Episode 2?
I wonder if they're going to wait for I don't know what word I wanted to put there. Wait for the direction Squadron falls.
Yeah.
As far as sales go, and see, like, we're gonna build it, but how fast should we build it? Is this going to be something that we can sustain, or do we have to really focus on Star Citizen as the thing that has built this company? And as the thing that we will make the company money going forward.
Yeah.
Which one's the side project is the question.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pause this and we'll switch screens. And we need to call it a night. So we need to find someone to raid. Let's see.
I got Echo Bit on my followed list. She's doing 4.0.
Let's see. Search. What would you say? Echo ECHO?
Echo Bit. Yeah.
Echo Bit.
She also helps with a lot of the racing events, like the really big racing events.
Okay, we will raid Echo Bit. Smuggling ground vehicles into Pyro.
Oh, jeez.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and start that raid. We'll send Echo some love. Thanks again, everybody, for coming and hanging out with us this evening. Thanks again so much to Grim for the raid and for all of you who stuck around and hung out. And Axis, yep. Really appreciate it. Come hang out some more. I'm going to be playing Star Citizen probably tomorrow night and Friday night and hopefully Sunday night. So keep an eye out on your notifications and come hang out. And we'll talk more and we'll hang out. And Naz and I will pick a date because we got to cover the monthly reports.
That just came out today.
Yep. Cheers. Thanks, everybody. 07.
Bye.